looked, and when I turned around, they were both looking at me with an attitude which I just knew at that moment, a complicity, because they both looked at me and said, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" I mean, you might ask someone what's right if they get up at the end of satsang and dance, but not what's wrong.
Yeah.
And it was very strange, and I was then torn with this horrible choice. Am I going to actually get into a fight with these people in satsang in front of Bhagwan? I mean, a fight? I mean, just unthinkable. Am I going to try and find this syringe somewhere? And I wasn't feeling good at all, so I decided that was not the best move on any grounds.
So you got very sick at that point, and
right.
Pooja delayed your trip to the hospital.
Apparently, yes.
You did recover.
Yes.
Given the fact that 4 times you were made sick mysteriously, didn't you get some sort of inkling that something is pretty screwy around here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even without my being poisoned, I knew I knew Sheila was on a collision course anyway. I mean, it was nothing irrespective of what she did to me.
Couldn't you have alerted anybody to that?
Well, you see, you have to understand, in a community like this, if I make a public accusation against Sheila and her group for attempted murder, I have no evidence. At that time, there was no witnesses who would have come forward to substantiate what I was saying. They have now come forward, and the whole sequence of events is absolutely clear, but at that time, there's no chance anyone would have come forward. I would have been an isolated person. It was already clear that the main focus of attention was on my sanity. So I have a choice between either making myself an outcast, ending up in a straitjacket, being given a pat on the shoulder and told I'm a little overworked and overstressed and maybe I'd like a holiday somewhere else, and I don't want to leave here.
Didn't you have any allies around here? Anybody you could turn to? It seems like there's a lot of people with suspicions that if they had just shared them with one another, maybe the fear could have been alleviated somewhat. Strength in numbers and all that.
But even 10 people still making a completely unprovable assertion makes all their lives impossible here. You can't go around saying the person in charge of this community is a murderer. Either you have evidence, in which case you proceed on those grounds. If you simply make that accusation, you'd have to leave. Your position here would be untenable.
Certainly. Didn't that ever cross your mind? I mean, these people are out to kill you. Didn't you ever say, I better get out of here to save my life?
No, I'm here for Bhagwan. They can do what they want.
Let me speak to your capacity as a doctor. Now, you say you didn't order any drugs except for the ones that Bhagwan needed. That's what I understand.
Yes, no, I mean, I've looked after people on the ranch. And
so you've ordered for other people?
Yes, I mean, I do.
Did you ever order in other people's names than yourself?
What do you mean?
In other words, that's one of Sheila's accusations.
Oh, I mean, putting people's drugs on one name for another person? Absolutely not, no.
And you say you didn't order many drugs yourself
anyway? No.
What about Pooja? Now, as a doctor around here, you must have had a lot to do with her, other than her.
No, my only contact with Pooja was basically in ordering equipment, and she was a pain in the ass about all that, for sure.
So?
Well, I mean, there was even one occasion when I needed a $4 roll of Band-Aid, and Durga. I'd phoned Durga, said I need it fast. I don't have a requisition order on me right now. It's sort of internal paperwork, which, if you've got time, can accompany something. But if in an emergency or it's needed in a hurry, just send it down the next day is absolutely fine. And I've told her that I wasn't going to bring a requisition order. Could someone just bring up this roll? Immediately left and ran down to the bottom of the drive to collect it. And apparently Durga had then been spoken to by Pooja, who had told her she was to phone back and explain that no way could this roll of Band-Aid...
So every little thing went through her.
I mean, she was right, and she kept a very close eye on absolutely everything, and was an impossible person to deal with. The no's or the yeses were always sort of, everything was hedged. You never got a clear answer. And even when you did get a clear answer, you could never discuss the details of it with her, because she'd have a strange logic about why it had to happen. And
Did you see, do you think that she was aware of any drug that came into this community? Did she have to sign off on drugs that you would order for Bhagwan, for example?
I don't know. I don't know.
I want to remind you of the time.
Yes, I need to go quite soon.
Okay. Let me just ask you one more question then about Pooja. How you say she had tight control then, but yet other people could theoretically order drugs. Just how tight was her control? What sort of role did she have here that you thought?
Well, I mean, she was a nurse practitioner, so she was technically allowed to prescribe for people. She was technically allowed to look after sick people. She was in charge of the whole medical establishment.
But you didn't take her orders from her, your orders from her?
No, I mean, I merely did what I needed to do, and when she got in the way, you know, I would make a fuss, basically, and say, there's no way we can have a situation where Band-Aids for sick people are being prevented just because of a bit of bureaucratic absurdity on the part of Pooja. And in the end, she was actually officially moved out of RMC, and Durga was put in charge, but in fact that was just a facade. In fact, Durga, I think, checked every single thing with Pooja.
Do you ever have any indication that the drugs, that the RMC itself was being used in such a way, other than you, but things like Haldol being given to homeless?
Well, I only read about the Haldol thing in the newspaper, and I gather all that Haldol was sent back. But I didn't have much to do with the day-to-day running of RMC, so I wouldn't know of, I wouldn't really know what was happening there.
Okay, thanks. If we could just get a couple of cutaway shots.
Be in charge of the medical setup. She was married, the story was she was married to a cardiac surgeon, and treat nurses abominably in most areas of the world, and they fetch this, do that. You know, they're totally arrogant and domineering, and waive their professional status as a means for behaving a little better than the sort of famous chauvinistic pigs must be well represented amongst the medical profession.
Sure, yeah.
And so people do build up a lot of antagonism, and even as patients, people get treated often in a very demeaning way. And so you have someone who's like very angry and resentful, and perhaps her failed marriage with her heart surgeon, who's the heart surgeon and she's only the nurse, builds up and she had great delight, you know, her docs, you know, she saw herself as sort of
in charge.
Yes, and loved to sort of whiz in and all this wonderful medicine that she was did, as I told him exactly what had happened. And he really, you know, he could not believe it to be true. I mean, to give you an example of the sort of attitudes against my point, he stopped off at the pharmacy for some insulin, because apart from all the other bizarre things, cardiac failure and such like, that I was going through, my blood sugar had gone up to 400 instead of a normal of about 80. And for the others in the ambulance, apparently they sort of looked at each other and, you know, poor old boy has really gone off his head, you know, he's really nuts.
Yeah.
And so that kind of atmosphere surrounded by... So far, so good.
I guess to start out with, let me address the problem that Bhagwan addressed a week ago. He said 7 days to get out. Has anybody gotten out because of Bhagwan's threat, do you suppose?
I don't think so.
Do you suppose that you've seen a settling down at all of people in their work habits?
Yes. Yes, it is coming together. And I don't actually see that he issued a threat. I think what he was saying was, come on you guys, wake up, enough is enough.
Do you think there may be need for him to say that again before the year is out?
Well, he says it to us all the time, one way or another. You know, it's like, stay awake. I think he's always waking us up one way or another. What
specific problems were you having?
People were feeling very disrupted, I think, because of all the... hang on a sec, I gotta stop.
That's okay.
There's something so weird about answering the same question twice. that I'm going to have to find another place to come from.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can ask it a different way. If
And,
that-
now I'm realizing why sometimes people, when I look at them on camera, why they sound funny to me.
Mhm.
And it's because it's like,
When you've already answered
right,
the question.
and it's like,
before.
come on, you know.
Yeah.
So let me just if you can ask it another way,
Yeah.
that's going to be a help.
Let's put it this way: was the commune functioning smoothly
Okay, right,
a week ago?
all right. A week ago there was still quite a bit of turmoil still. In some of the areas people were coming together and it was getting solid again. But in other areas people were still feeling like, you know, what's going on? They still felt really shaky. And they were still feeling like they needed to take space for themselves to orientate what they wanted. And also there were certain areas where people wanted to make revolutionary changes within the structure.
Has that autonomy been a problem? Bhagwan has addressed that in discourses too. Have people? He recommended at one point that people, if you've got an opinion, go up in the hills and express it.
Right.
Has that been a problem? Everybody wanted to come in with their own ideas, and is there room for that in a communal situation?
I think there's always room for looking at ideas. I think that's essential. But I think it needs to happen as a group within an area. And the problems are when somebody with really strong ideas comes and says, I think it should be this way, and it doesn't fit with the rest of the people or with the overview of the community.
Without the exchange of ideas, however, how do you keep it from becoming as autocratic as it was during Sheila's day?
I think there should be an exchange of ideas. I think that's essential. And I think the process should be continually changing. But I think it needs to change organically within the people who are involved, rather than one individual in that area saying, let's do it this way, or an individual like Sheila, say, from outside the area saying, it has to be that way.
So structurally, what will be different in the way that things go here?
I hope there's a lot more communication, less control and more growth.
Is the era of the moms really over, or is it a situation where you still have to have a chain of command that is similar to the way it was before?
I think you need focal people in each area so that you can pass information on that, you know, is needed. Two-way street. But I think there should be people more who allow an openness and lead a situation rather than say it's this way or that way.
Has there been a replacement of some of the key people since?
There's been a lot of change. I mean, a lot of the key people left and new people have come in.
How about people that were just that didn't leave with Sheila, but
Right.
still had positions of responsibility?
Right.
Have some of them been replaced as well?
Some of them have gone to different areas if they felt like they wanted to change themselves, and some of them have stayed.
What do you think? What do you think the biggest challenge for the commune is in the next couple of weeks, next month or so? What's your own personal goal?
Okay. I think the biggest challenge is staying in touch with this new energy. You know, when you first wake up, when you get a big shock and you wake up, it's a very alive time, and there's a lot of hope in there, and there's a lot of willingness to expand, and a willingness to deal with, you know, to allow discomfort to a certain extent because you can see you're moving forward. I hope we don't fall asleep again and choose comfort instead of reality.
One final question, this is a more specific one. I know that the city had some problems, temporary problems with insurance, and there were some indications that there was also some the same problem faced by the bus, Buddha Field Transport, which I understand is run by the commune. What did the commune go through in terms of insurance?
I'm not sure exactly, actually. To get the whole story together for you, we could get together later on if you like. But I don't feel I've got the whole story to tell you right now.
Has it been resolved at any rate? Are you all covered at this point?
I understand we're covered.
Yeah, I'd be interested to find that out. Because
Okay.
we kept seeing signs of it around the commune.
Yeah.
And like when they moved the bus station, et cetera,
Right.
so on.
Right.
But never was able to put it together completely as far
Yeah.
as who had done what to who.
Right.
And I do know that the city at least feels that they were wrongly canceled in midterm, and I'm wondering if that was, if you also feel the same way in terms of the commune, if there's going to be a hearing, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera.
I can find out.
That would be great.
Yeah.
If you could just maybe get the information up to
Yeah.
the visitor center or something
Yeah.
like that, we could check with you a little later.
All right. So then would you want to ask me that question again?
I wouldn't even need to do it on camera.
Okay,
As long
fine.
as we could just, if you could just
Yeah.
let me know what transpired
Right.
and what you've done to remedy it, that
Right.
would be great.
Okay.
I just have a feeling that if there's a hearing later on, that we want to be aware of it.
What sort of hearing?
Well, the city's filed a complaint in that they feel like they were wrongly canceled for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And I'm sure you could make a case if that was the case here for the commune
Right.
as well. And I think there's a general larger question there as to whether the business community is acting responsibly in the wake of a lot of the things
Yeah.
that have happened here. That it will, just my hunch, be a story down the road.
Could be.
Yeah, that I just want to be able to have the background for it.
My own sense is that whatever freakouts were coming our way from the business community, that's mostly happened. And from now, things are going to get progressively more settled.
You got any specific ideas as far as business expansion for the commune?
That's something you probably want to talk to John about, I would think.
I know he's got some ideas.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
my main expectation is that we see a lot more people down here. We're going to change the accommodation rates and things like that. And I think people are going to want to come and check out for themselves and visit and enjoy being here with us.
See it firsthand.
Right.
You bet.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks. I think that'll probably do it.
That maybe your future here wasn't all that secure. A lot of people felt that they could get.
There was a time when reporters.
Oh, I mean, I absolutely have no problem about saying what I feel.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd throw that in.
I mean, there were many times when I felt like my future here was insecure. I mean, simply because not only mine. I mean, I was seeing this happening to other people here in the commune, and it was, and the situation that we were in was probably just a lot different from the others. And it just came to a point to where I said, okay, I want to be here. So I did what was necessary to be here. Yeah. But sure, certainly, there was many times when I felt insecure. But as far as seeing anything amiss or really happening, I mean, I was pretty much like a lot of other people around here. I mean, I just learned to trust and went along with what happened here in the commune.
Had anybody ever threaten you as far as leaving? Hang that over your head?
No, me personally, no. I've never had that hung over my head as far as leaving is concerned. You know, I mean, there have been a couple of times when I felt like I wanted to leave. Yeah, sure.
How come?
Well, I mean, in a way, I felt very restricted here in the commune. You know, I didn't feel like I was really growing here. So for me, that was more depressing than anything else that was going on. Yeah.
Specifically, talk about some allegations that have been made about a year ago. There's been a charge that Share Home people were getting tranquilizers in their beer. Did you have a beer at night when you were here?
Sure.
Did you feel anything strange about that?
No, I've never felt anything strange. You know, I thought back on that, and I absolutely felt nothing out of the ordinary with my body physically. So, I mean, I really don't know one way or the other if that really happened.
How about you? Did you ever notice anything out of the ordinary at all about after you'd had a beer or after you'd eaten anything here?
No. I've been having beer since I've been here and still having one. So now for 7 minutes, I don't know nothing about it. I didn't feel it, you know. But I have mind to leave, you know, because I couldn't speak the way I wanted to speak, but now I can speak the way I want to speak, so what the fuck, you know. I'm going to say what I got to say, and that's it.
Who would tell you couldn't say what you wanted to say before?
It's not that they tell me, you know, if you go to say something, they tell you, you know, blah, 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 and, you know, and they have a feeling some people, they go and speak their mind, they have sent them away, you know. But speaking generally me myself, it never have happened to me, but that's the feeling that I have, you know. If I had went and spoke what I felt, they would have told me the same thing, but maybe they wouldn't, you know. But that was my feeling. But now, it's a whole lot different story. I can speak the way I want to speak, say what I want to say, or whatever ain't going on. I feel that ain't going on right, I can say it, you know. And it won't be, hey, you got to go, you know.
You knew people that were asked to leave because they spoke their mind?
I know very few people, you know, they got sent away because they spoke their mind, you know. So.
Did you ever know anybody that complained that they felt like they were being drugged at all?
No, really, I never did.
Did you ever hear any stories like that at all?
No, not really. I mean, it's just, it was a situation where, no, I never actually heard anything like that at all. I mean, if it was happening, then it was happening, but nobody was just knew it was going on. But I never heard any stories. I mean, the only stories I've heard are the ones that just come up recently. So I really don't know.
Good, thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, great.
I just wanted to point that out. Hey, you get out of there.
My voice?
Yeah. I used to be in radio broadcasting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You've got a pretty good voice yourself.
Yeah, so I know you as well, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Let me go through this once again. At the outset, the investigators even presented the Rajneeshis with a wish list of documents needed for evidence. But the honeymoon didn't last for long. Several years of mistrust on both sides couldn't be erased overnight, and it became clear that some people still at the ranch might be vulnerable to prosecution. The Rajneeshis, never known for tossing self-interest aside, started looking out for number one. There we go. Is it okay?
Maybe you want to hold the reflector right there. We're rolling
Okay.
anytime you're ready.
At the outset, the investigators even presented the Rajneeshis with a wish list of evidence. This is going to take me a while. This is a long one. At the outset, the investigators even presented the Rajneeshis with a wish list of At the outset, investigators even presented the Rajneeshis with a wish list of documents needed for evidence. But the honeymoon didn't last for long. Years of mistrust on both sides couldn't be erased overnight. And it became clear that some people still at the ranch might be vulnerable to prosecution. So I started looking out for number one. Okay. At the outset, the investigators even presented the Rajneeshis with a wish list of documents needed for evidence. But the honeymoon didn't last for long. Years of mistrust on both sides couldn't be erased overnight. And it became clear that a number of people at the ranch might be... Some people still at the ranch. At the outset, the investigators even presented the Rajneeshis with a wish list of documents needed for evidence. But the honeymoon didn't last for long. Years of mistrust on both sides couldn't be erased overnight. And it became clear that some people still at the ranch might be vulnerable to prosecution. So the Rajneeshis, never known for tossing self-interest aside, started looking out for number one. Try another one.
Can you stand looking up, son, about here?
Yeah, bet.
All right. Okay. Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the lighting here.
Okay.
Much better.
At the outset, the investigators even presented the Rajneeshis of... At the outset, the investigators even presented the Rajneeshis with a wish list of... At the outset, the investigators even presented the Rajneeshis with a wish list of documents needed for evidence. But the honeymoon didn't last for long. Years of mistrust on both sides couldn't be erased overnight. And it became clear that some people still at the ranch might be vulnerable to prosecution. So the Rajneeshis, never known for tossing self-interest aside, started looking out for number one. That'll probably do it.
What does number one mean?
In other words, what I will say...
We are rolling.
Business has been so good for the Rajneeshis lawyers lately that they've set up offices in the Hotel Rajneesh. And even though the focus of the state's attention will be shifting to the Dalles, federal authorities will remain here. Cut that for a second. That doesn't... Bad as my hair. Is it standing like straight up? If it is, I can't. that's not good. Of course, the wind.
We're rolling.
Actually, is the wind noise going to... You ought to be able to hear if it...
Okay, they go.
Business has been so good for the Rajneeshis' lawyers lately that they've set up offices in the Hotel Rajneesh. And even though the state's effort will... Business has been so good for the Rajneeshis' lawyers lately that they've set up offices in the Hotel Rajneesh. And even though the focus of the state's attention will shift to the Dalles, there'll still be plenty of legal work here at the ranch. The federal authorities don't take... Here, cut it off while the wind gust is blowing. Ready? Business has been so good for the Rajneeshis' lawyers lately that they've set up offices in the Hotel Rajneesh. And even though the focus of the state's attention is shifting to the Dalles, there'll be plenty of legal work at the ranch. Federal authorities don't take their wiretapping. Business has been so good for the Rajneeshis' lawyers lately that they've set up offices here at the Hotel Rajneesh. And even though the focus of the state's attention is shifting to the Dalles, there'll still be plenty of legal work here at the ranch. Federal authorities don't take their wiretapping case before a grand jury until November, and federal agents will remain here trying to get more evidence, trying to get more witnesses to come forward. In Rajneeshpuram, Scott Miller, News 8. Yeah. Trying to get more witnesses to come forward.
You gonna try it again?
Yeah, let's try one more for safety's sake. Business has been so good for the... Business has been so good for the Rajneeshis' lawyers lately that they've set up offices at the Hotel Rajneesh. And even though the state's... Business has been so good for the Rajneeshis' lawyers lately that they've set up offices at the Hotel Rajneesh. And even though the focus of the state's attention is shifting to the Dalles, there'll still be plenty of legal work here at the ranch. Federal authorities don't take their wiretapping case before a grand jury until November. And federal agents will remain here trying to get more evidence, trying to get more witnesses to come forward. In Rajneeshpuram, Scott Miller, News 8. Business has been so good for the Rajneeshis' lawyers lately that they've set up offices in the Hotel Rajneesh. And even though the focus of the state's attention will shift to the Dalles, business has been so good for the Rajneeshis' lawyers lately that they've set up offices in the Hotel Rajneesh. And even though the focus of the state's attention is shifting to the Dalles, there'll still be plenty of legal work here at the ranch. Federal authorities don't take their wiretapping case before a grand jury until November. And federal agents will remain here trying to gather more evidence and trying to coax more witnesses into coming forward. In Rajneeshpuram, Scott Miller, News 8. Okay.
Just listen to me. I defy you to say that you've ever walked into a school with this attitude and with this amount of violence and intrusiveness. You tell the truth. Don't lie. I don't want to hear your rhetoric and your bullshit. I just want you to tell the truth. Just tell the truth. That this is the first time that you've ever come down here in this circumstance.
Have you ever taken attendance?
This is the first time. Have you ever done this before?
Would you like to have me answer your question?
Yes, but I want a straight answer. I don't want any other bullshit. I just want a straight answer. Have you ever done this before?
This is the first time we've ever had a school district that has been determined contrary to the Constitution.
Oh, bullshit.
By the superintendent. So naturally, there's a different situation. So this school district has been
How is it that he standardized the program and then 8 months
not,
later
the issue is
decided,
not standardization.
Then of course it's not, but how is it that he originally standardized the program and 8 months later decided it was a mixture of church and state? Is it in coincidence with the AG? Is it?
There's nothing in the standards. You see, when you talk about standards,
but you came down here and went
Why
all...
did Duncan standardize the program, put his stamp of approval, and 8 months later, much closer to his political campaign time, decide that he's going to make an issue out of it?
8 months
it's
later.
political exploitation. It has nothing to do with the allegations that you're making.
You're certainly entitled to your opinion.
We are
but I'm
going
just
to
telling
give you the
facts,
information
the facts
that you are requesting
that
today.
Vern Duncan came here personally
Because we're going to show you that we
and
have a 100%
determined that the school
valid
district
program.
was in violation of
But
the
we are
Constitution.
insulted by it, and you're not doing us any favor. You're doing what you're doing the job that you're being paid for by these taxpayers, and we intend to make this known to you.
So we're trying to do the best we can.
Well, it's a good thing because you're being paid good money by the taxpayers. And you've wasted enough money for this last couple of months trying to bring false allegations towards the school district. And we resent it, and we won't accept an apology. Just because you're here, it's
I'm not
not a
here to
soap
apologize.
And
opera.
we won't accept this is just your opinion, because that's a bunch of baloney also.
What's my opinion?
You're just saying this is our opinion that this has happened. It's the fact of
No,
what you're
the
doing.
fact is that the I didn't say there was
What's
an
your name?
opinion. I said
Excuse me. What's
the
his
fact
name?
is that
Jim
the
Goddard.
superintendent has deemed that this school district is in violation of the Constitution.
Which is total bull.
But that's what the facts
And
His
it's
allegations
just
are constitutionally
constitutional.
void.
That'll
Void.
be-
V-O-I-D. Mr.
I
Goddard, we
assume
are
that
going
will
to take
be,
you into the classroom so that you can call names out and you can see the attendance sheets. Our attendance sheets reflect that eight fourth graders are present in that classroom right now. That you won't accept my word, that you won't accept the head teacher's word, that 8 fourth grade students are present in there is abominable. I'm going to take you in there so that you can call roll call and see that they're actually present. That you don't trust my word is outrageous, and it's because I am a Rajneeshi and no other reason. So you need to be clear of your prejudice and your bigotry, because that's all it is. My word against a Rajneeshi word versus a non-Rajneeshi word.
And you haven't done this, and the point I'm trying to make is
we
this is
appreciate
total
your
discrimination.
Of course you appreciate our cooperative,
It's
because we're
full.
cooperative and we're intelligent and we're entitled to those state funds. And you're not doing us any favor by coming here and pretending to be helpful in the school district
Because you're
after
not.
bringing false allegations that are constitutionally
Are
void,
we, ready
acting
to
out of
visit?
your jurisdiction and your authority.
I have no authority, the superintendent of public instruction.
It just so happens that we're a very intelligent school district.
Listen, that's what everyone says.
And
when,
we will not
that's
let
what all
ourselves
the
be
people say I have
exploited.
no authority when they carry out discriminative acts of their boss. So you're not going to hide behind that.
So when are we ready to go into the classroom to take
As
attendance?
soon as we
Like a kindergarten.
receive the roster of students.
Okay. Do we have the roster of students prepared so we can go inside and take attendance? Are you ready to, have you taught in the elementary school system? Be the most convenient way.
All right, thank you.
We'd like to show our kids examples of the state educators to see what asses they are.
Yes.
How you guys?
Yeah, they've been given that already. Okay. This is fourth and
I'm
third in this
not
bunch.
going to believe it.
Right. So if you call up the fourth graders. Fourth graders, raise your hand,
I don't
please.
think we need to.
Wants to make sure that you're in this room. Now, anybody can see you're in this room, right? But they are stupid and they don't understand what they see before their very eyes. So they're going to call out some names. When you hear your name called, just raise your hand.
Ami? Ami, where are you? I saw you.
She's in the other class.
Okay. Can you go get Ami for me, Kieran, and just bring her over here? Tabar?
Tabaret.
Tabaret.
Bring Tabaret too, Kieran.
Kieran, ring Tabaresh too.
Alright.
Tabaret.
Now, that's...
These are their nicknames, right?
And did you guys begin coming to school there last week?
Yes. Yes.
Remember what day it was, anybody? And you've been here all this week?
Yes.
You guys having a good time?
Yes.
Yeah? Are you learning a lot?
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you. Nice seeing you.
Sure it is.
Look what I made, Catherine.
I mean, they're not trusting. I mean, they wouldn't go into a school like this. They have never gone into a school like this, where they're taking account of the kids in the classroom. They would rely upon, if a school administration said, these are the kids in this classroom, that would be it. But they're intruding upon our educational system. They're intruding upon the teachers. They're intruding upon these children, bringing this press in here like this, bringing their violent intention to destroy this educational system. And the way they're doing it is disgusting.
That's fine with me, we'll do it. Thank you.
Oh, okay. opportunity to see that all of the 5th and 6th graders that are enrolled in Lincoln School are actually present in this classroom today. So what I'm going to do is call your name, and when I call your name, you say here, okay?
Are we rolling? Okay. There are 3 people left who must answer federal charges. The Bhagwan, according to a U.S. attorney, could be brought back to Portland within a week. The other 2, Sheila and Vidya, are still in West Germany. Sorry. 3 people must still answer federal charges. The Bhagwan, according to a U.S. attorney, could be brought back to Portland within a week. The other 2, Sheila and Vidya, are still in West Germany. U.S. officials are currently engaged in a battle of red tape to bring them back to Oregon. At U.S. District Court in downtown Portland, Kathy Kiyomura, News 8. Three people must still answer federal charges. The Bhagwan, according to a U.S. attorney, may be brought back to Portland within a week. The other 2, Sheila and Vidya, are still in West Germany, and U.S. officials are currently engaged. 3 people must still answer federal charges. The Bhagwan, according to a U.S. attorney, could be. Three people must still answer federal charges. The Bhagwan, according to a U.S. attorney, could be brought back to Portland within a week. The other two, Sheila and Vidya, are still in West Germany, and U.S. officials are currently engaged in a red tape battle to bring them back to Oregon. At U.S. District Court in downtown Portland, Kathy Kiyomura, News 8.
Okay, get back to work now.
You hate to see people having a good time at their jobs, right?
Yeah, nothing worse. Nothing worse.
3 people must still answer federal charges. The Bhagwan, according to a U.S. attorney, could be brought back to Portland within a week. The other 2, Sheila and Vidya, are still in West Germany, and U.S. officials are currently engaged in a battle of red tape to bring them back to Oregon. At U.S. District Court in downtown Portland, Kathy Kiyomura, News 8.
No comments today.
Has there been any reaction in England to what's been going on?
There's a lot of press in England about what's been going on. Yes.
And the Rajneeshis, how are they reacting?
They're upset. Today they're at the consulate over their concern about what's going on.
They're holding together.
Oh yes, very much so.
Here, this way. Let's go this way. I lost a guy.
For a trial lawyer, I get very nervous talking to more than 12 people. And I'm really here to talk to you as a lawyer. And so unusual for a lawyer, I'm going to be brief. And to the point, and really not to tell you anything that you don't already know. I don't really want to comment on any recent events or rumors or things that are happening specifically, because there are a lot of legal implications to what's happening right now. I'm here for John and Hasia, only to say that it was because of all the things that are going on right now that it would really be inappropriate for them to make any public comment. That there'll be another meeting tomorrow. And there will be more to say then. That hopefully will be more than just lawyers' bullshit. So the only thing for us to do for tonight is to be together and to love each other and to get up tomorrow and to go to work and to keep doing what we're here to do. And to let you know that it was my advice and the advice of the lawyers that there really, right now, really nothing more can be said. You all understand now? See you tomorrow.
Okay, tell me your name a couple of times, just your sound level.
Okay, my name's Richard Moya. Richard Moya.
Okay.
My name's Richard Moya.
What did you see yesterday?
The two Lear jets that came in yesterday, one was here probably by 8 o'clock, the next one came in about 12 noon. Sat here the entire day, and while they sat here, the large Lear 24 was taken apart and completely cleaned with the alcohol. And everything, really, the whole aircraft. They sat around waiting. They loaded a few items in the aircraft, and we finally gave up waiting to see if the Bhagwan was going to get on, and we ended up leaving for dinner, really. Before we.
So you did not see the Rolls-Royce drive up?
No.
And you didn't see who got on the plane?
No. There was a Rolls-Royce that drove up earlier during the day while I was sitting here, but no one ever entered the aircraft from that particular car.
What kind of a plane was the other one?
It was also Learjet. It was an older model, though. I really don't know the specific type.
Did they have any name or marking on them?
No. The tail number of the large Lear 24 was FF. That's about all I can remember about that one. One was from Portland, which I believe was the larger one. It was chartered out of Portland. The other one, I'm not sure where it came from.